Hi guys, it's Chris. I'm making this video because I'm going through a lot of changes in my life. Lots of things are going to be happening for me in 2012, and some other things are going to be coming to a halt. Um, but I thought that maybe now I've gotten back into vlogging and into making regular videos, that perhaps I should give you guys a little insight in who I am, what I do, and especially why I've become the way that I am right now, because I think that I'm really in a second chapter of my life. I've been through a very rough period in 2008 and 2009, during which I left Belgium, where I had been living for 21 years, to go and fulfill my childhood dream of living in the UK. Something that I've always wanted to do when I was a kid, and yeah. I was on the internet, and I will just throw it out there for everyone as well. I am gay, I'm homosexual, and I started visiting London and Manchester, two cities which have a very broad gay scene, and lots of people there were very attractive to me, and I started talking to these people online. I made a few really good friends back when I was coming out of the closet about 6 or 7 years ago in London, and then I started getting to know people in Manchester, and there was one guy in particular that I was really attracted to. I'm not going to say his name in full, because I don't think that's really what you should do on here. Some people might not like it, but anyway, I'm drafting up. I think it's ADD. I don't really know what I have, but I keep hopping from one subject to another. Anyway, I'll just start at the start, and like I said, I've always wanted to live in the UK. When I was a kid, I was always obsessed with anything British. I always wanted to watch British TV. I loved the English language. Without getting any lessons in school, I was a fluent English speaker by the time that I was like 9. And it's just something that I always wanted to do. And in growing up, when I was going to university, I was like 17 or 18 at that time, and that was a very, very difficult year for me. Mostly because, well, I was kind of tired of studying, really. You spend like 17 years of your life being told what to do, and then you turn 18 and you're like, why am I still doing this? I just wanted to get a job and make money and be able to do what I really enjoy in life. And so I quit high school, something that I do actually regret right now, because I feel that I should have done something with my life, but I didn't. And I don't really believe in regrets, but if there is one regret that I would have to name right now, it is probably dropping out of university so quick and pretty thoughtless. I mean, at that time I was a bit of a rebel. I'm an only child at home, and during the year that I was in school, some bad things happened as well at home with my parents, and my parents were getting really close to a divorce. And there was like a lot of domestic violence, but we've gotten through that. My parents are great together right now. I mean, 8 years have passed since then, and things are good. And I made a stand for myself in my 18th year, and I told people that I was gay, because I felt that that was what I had to do. I've always had like a big sense of, I want to show the real me to the world. It's the same kind of thing on the internet, when I'm chatting to people on the internet or when I'm on Facebook. I want people to see the real me. I don't want people to see someone they want to see. I want people to see me as I am, and that's just how I think about the internet. I've always had that really big sense of, wanting to be myself and establish myself as a person, and I got a little bit carried away with that. I was job hopping all the time from one job to another. Eventually I got into a job with the government for a year, which was very, very unrewarding, very depressing time of my life, because I had a few colleagues with their own little nasty ways making life really hard for me. From there I moved on to working in the hotel business as a receptionist in Brussels. And that went really well. That was really a job that I enjoyed. All of my colleagues, all of my male colleagues were gay, which was pretty cool. And yeah, we were one big family. But, after a year and a half there, I started feeling like, that I was missing something. And, I saw my savings account get to a certain level, and it made me feel like, why not? I've always wanted to move to England. Why don't I do it now? So, yeah, I started talking to friends in London who were going to help me move over to London, but then I came across someone on the internet on a gay profile site called P. Let's just make it a letter P. And yeah, he was one of the most overwhelming experiences for me, because I was getting quite a lot of attention back then when I was still handsome, not like now, but I was getting a lot of attention, and people were really liking me physically, liking my face and everything, giving me lots of compliments. But he was different. He was so enthusiastic about seeing me. He was like really obsessed with me from day one. We were constantly chatting. We were on MSN all the time. We were on G Talk all the time. We were calling back and forth as well over the phone. And there wasn't a day that went by without us spending 2 or 3 hours together on the internet. And it turned into romance. On the 9th of November 2007, I met this person in London during a birthday weekend when I went out to see Porcupine Tree play at whatever it was called. Yeah, some kind of venue in London. But I met him that night, and it was one of the most amazing nights of my life, to be honest. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But he left such a big impression on me. But he was from Manchester, you see. So shortly after, I made the decision to go see him in Manchester, because here in Belgium you had the opportunity to fly to Manchester quite easily. You can fly from Antwerp, you can fly from Brussels, you can fly from Charleroi. So the options were there, and so I did. And I went over to him. I loved every minute with him. It was great, and that's when I decided, somewhere around February or March of 2008, that I was going to, go there and be with him. And that was what he promised me, that I could stay with him. He was sharing a flat at that time. But then, shit got sour, really. As soon as we decided that, and that I was going to move to Manchester to be with him, things got a bit weird. During my talking on these gay profile sites, I had come across a lot of men that I was interested in, you see. So lots of friends as well, and you kind of start talking to these people about your excitement to be sharing your life with someone in the city they live in. And then suddenly you start getting these stories like, oh, you're coming here to live with him? Yeah, he was just inviting me over for sex the other night. And I was young, I was really naive, I didn't really understand the concept of open relationships. But when I heard that the first time, that was a real shocker for me, and I went ballistic. I went absolutely crazy. And the worst thing that I did eventually was that, I was poking shit at him for sleeping with other guys, but I was doing it myself. And that's where I realized that I was still very much in the first chapter of my life, because that's something, if I think about that now, I just realize that why would you do such a thing? Why would you blame someone for something you're doing yourself? It just doesn't make sense. I realize that now. But things got really bad between me and him. We were fighting, we weren't seeing each other anymore, we weren't talking to each other anymore. And eventually, I ended up with, everything set to move to Manchester, but the person I was moving to Manchester for was no longer there. And stubborn as I was, being a 21-year-old gay guy, I still moved. I looked for a flat. I got a really cheap flat in Salford in Greater Manchester on Derby Road, also with people that I knew from these websites. I thought it was a fairly cheap rate, 280 quid a month, with charges included, I think. But, you know, to me that was a really good starting point. To me that was like, I can go there, I can basically live for a few months using my savings while I look for a job and, you know, just settle down on my own. And, you know, I had been talking to so many people out there that I was bound to come across someone that wanted to start a relationship with me, because that was all that was on my mind. I mean, I was in such a panic. I was so disappointed how things went with P that I was really blind, and also tempted by opposites, which really got me into a lot of trouble, which you will hear later on. So yeah, I decided to, you know, quit my job. I had to work about 6 weeks before I could go. And I booked 2 weeks off during these 6 weeks to go and go to Manchester and like really settle things in stone and set things in stone. Sorry, edit. So yeah, I went there for 2 weeks, and you know, I needed someone to print out my CVs so I could, you know, my resumes, so I could show them to employers. And a mate of mine was like, oh, I know someone who's coming to Manchester today, and he has a printer at home. He can print a few resumes for you and give them to you. I'm not going to lie about his name. I don't think that's going to mean much to people who don't know me, but his name's Ian. And yeah, I met him in Manchester Piccadilly Station in a pub upstairs, and things went really well. I mean, like the last week that I was there, me and him, we were constantly, absolutely constantly going out together, you know, and things were pretty cool. I mean, we were very positive between us two. You know, the cuddles were there, lots of affection, giggles were there. We shared a lot of things, like hobbies and stuff we used to like to do together. And you know, things seemed absolutely great when I went back home. And shortly after I returned to the UK in August of 2008 to live there permanently, just a few weeks in, I got into a relationship with this person, not knowing that that was probably one of the biggest mistakes I will ever make in my life, because, you know, lots of red flags were going up the first few months of my relationship with this person. Lots of people reacted in shock that I was in a relationship with this person. But again, stubborn as I am, I completely ignored these stories that people were giving to me, people were telling me, because I was like, oh, you're just jealous, you're trying to break down my relationship. And, you know, that's something that naive people do, I think. They get really defensive for stuff that really should be listened to, should be considered. But anyway, these people were giving me a lot of shit about getting into a relationship with this person, and you know, from P, I hadn't heard very good stories about this guy, because, you know, he shared a flat with him before, but P wouldn't talk to me anymore at that moment in time, and yeah, he couldn't save me either. You know, if he would have spoken to me, if he would have come up to me and told me, Chris, you really have to watch out for this guy, I would have believed him. But with the situation that developed before I moved there, he didn't want to talk to me anymore, and yeah, that's kind of where it went wrong, I think. So I was living in that flat on Derby Road in Salford, and he asked to move in with me because he was leaving Liverpool after he was living with someone else there as well. So yeah, he moved in with me on Derby Road. Things got really bad between me and the flat owners, because, you know, Ian was leaving his shit all over the house, and he was never tidying up. You know, it was like fucking battlefield all over the place. You know, there was stuff all over the house. Then he decided that he was going to adopt a kitten without talking to the other people living in the same house, and that caused a big shit stir up. And yeah, a few weeks later we were asked by the house owner to leave. So we were in a bit of a panic, and we decided to look for a flat, which was not far from there. We found a little house on Keswick Grove in Salford. We moved there, and that's when something really big happened. Me and him were really interested in playing bingo. You have like gala bingo halls in England, well, in Great Britain really, and they're really fun. They're a really fun pastime, and we could really use the money. And from the first experiences of us going there, we did win quite a bit of money just going there regularly and buying loads of tickets to play with. So that's how we kept ourselves going for a while. But there was like, Gala Bingo has like a game in which you can win a great deal of money. And at some stage he told me that he had won about 60,000 quid. So I was over the moon because I really believed him. I was still, voluntarily blind to the stuff that he was doing because, people had criticized my relationship with him, so I would believe anything at that moment in time, which is incredibly naive. But yeah, so he kind of bribed me into believing that he had loads of money, but his money never really showed. Whenever we needed to do stuff, whenever we needed to invest in things, it was always my bank account going down instead of his. There was always some really poor excuse why he couldn't get to his money on his bank account. God knows why. And just thinking back about that, I believed that crap for months. I really did. Even to the point that that the house owner of the house we were at that moment on Keswick Grove, that this girl and her mother, they came to the door one night, and Ian clearly knew that they were coming. That they were coming to complain about unpaid rent, about debts. So yeah, he kind of like violently stopped me from going to the door, and he told me to stay where I was, and that he was going to talk to these people. And I was too tempted to listen down the hall to hear what was being said at the door, and that really should have been an exit point for me. I had a really good friend at that moment in time called Alex, and he was offering me to come over and stay with him, just to escape from a situation. But this person that I was with, Ian, he was so incredibly intimidating. He would do anything to manipulate me. He would do anything to make me feel like crap about everything. Like really emotionally manipulating me just to get to my money. And there have been many scenarios during those 10 months that I was, too scared to, make that step to move away from him. So yeah, I kind of blanked Alex. Alex also got into some legal trouble and disappeared off the radar for a while. And when that happened, I kind of lost everyone in Manchester. I tried to celebrate my birthday on the 10th of November with a lot of these people that I'd met online. I invited about 50 people, and about 4 showed up. And those were people who I had met in real life down there, who I'd really built a good friendship with. Yeah, so I kind of lost everyone when I lost my mate Alex, who had been my best friend during my time there. He had done something really naughty and ended up in prison for it, which is, not really good, of course. And I was really disappointed because he was like my lifeline during the time that I was there. He was the guy who kept talking sense into me, and I'm sure if he would have been around longer, that maybe I could have gotten away in time from this guy. But those are just excuses. I should have been smart enough myself to walk away from him, and I didn't. So things got really bad. The house owner on Keswick Grove invited us to court. I never went. Ian never went, and we kind of ran away. We moved to Liverpool, to Morton on the Wirral, to live with a very close and long-time friend of his. Things got bad there as well because, you know, I was running out of money and Ian didn't have any money either, you know, even though he told me he did. So yeah, we ended up in a really big fight out there, and you know, that was a night on which I burst, and I told him, look, I can't do this anymore. Ever since I've been with you, I've been running into bad luck every day. You know, as soon as I open my eyes until I close my eyes in the evening, and you know, I wanted to split up, so I ran away to a new friend of mine at that stage. I'll call him D. So I ran away to his place for the night, and the morning after, this guy told me, you can't stay here, I want you out at noon. So I didn't have anywhere to go. You know, the only thing that I could still possibly do at that time was return to Ian. And, you know, things got even worse then. I mean, we ended up in Blackpool, which is like the biggest shithole I've ever seen. Very depressing place to live in, and I really had hit rock bottom at that time. I'd lost my property, living with someone else, because Ian pissed this person off. It's my mate Scott, by the way. I'd lost my property. You know, I was there with nothing but my clothes and a laptop and a suitcase with some bits and bobs in it that didn't really matter. I had no money. I had nothing. I was skinned. So at that time, all I could do was return back to Belgium, which I did. Ian came with me because he apparently got a job here in Belgium. That's what he said. You know, he had creatively made all these like fake job descriptions and fake contracts with fake signatures and stuff like that. And he managed to convince me one more last time that, you know, that things were going to be okay. So he convinced me to let him go to Belgium with me, and things got really bad between him and my parents because, you know, my parents were really onto him. You know, I was onto him as well, but I was too intimidated to admit it. But my parents were really putting on the pressure, especially my dad. My dad, I really thought my dad was an asshole at the time for being so hard on me and Ian. But boy, was he right, and I'm really grateful for what he did for me. But basically this scared Ian away, and you know, he left me behind with just a laptop and a few shirts. And yeah, I had absolutely nothing. I'd hit rock bottom. Everything I'd worked for during those 3 years after school was gone. Now, during the time that I was in Manchester, you know, I've risked being homeless twice. I've risked getting into a few fights with like Liverpool gangs, who were getting really pissed off with Ian because he owed them money. I've seen many things during that time in Manchester, stuff that really genuinely scares me. And it's been 3 years now since I've been back to Manchester, but I've now decided to go and visit Manchester and see all these people that I've been missing for so many years. It's going to be a very, very challenging trip for me, because, you know, those streets are covered in bad memories for me, especially the city centre and Salford. I'm hoping to stay away from the bad memories as much as I can. I'm hoping that I'm not going to run into my ex, because I'm going to beat the crap out of him basically if I see him. But I just feel that this is a thing that I really have to do in 2012 to be able to move on with my life permanently. It's been something that has been on my mind for 3 years now, that I really, really have to go back to Manchester and, you know, see all these people that were important to me during that year, to see all those people again, and, you know, to say hello properly again, and in some cases to say goodbye properly. It's going to be a challenging 4 days for me when I'm there, but I'm going to be vlogging during those days. I'm going to be showing you my friends if they want to be shown. and I'm really hoping that it's going to be a positive experience for me, that I'm going to be returning to Belgium as a reborn man, and that I will be able to move on with my life permanently from then on. I'm now currently in Antwerp. I'm financially stable right now. I've been in a stable relationship with a guy for a year and a half now. He's the most caring, most adorable man that I've ever seen in his life, in our life, and I love him to bits. And this relationship has been going so smoothly, and to me it's a lesson that sometimes it's really worth holding on. There have been times during the few months after I returned from Manchester, there have been times that I was seriously thinking, okay, or I'm going to pick myself up right now and start rebuilding my life, or I'm going to find the quickest, most painless way of dying right now. And believe me, that is the most uncomfortable thing ever, to wake up every day, to walk the streets, to go to work, and every minute that idea pops into your head that you just want to die, that you just don't see how you're going to get yourself out of this situation. I was dealing with a few long-running debts at that time as well, so I was skinned most of the time, and for 4 or 5 months I really couldn't do anything with my life. And that really isn't what I intended. That really was a shock to me, because I was a spoilt brat when I moved to Manchester. I've always had everything I wanted in life because I was an only child. My parents had only one kid to spoil. But in ways, it's always worth holding on. If you see how I've done, how I've recovered, how I'm now stable financially, how I'm now in a fantastic relationship with a loving man, it's always worth holding on. I know that there are times that you might get to these stages in life that you think, oh, might just as well blow a bullet through my head. But all I can say is don't. You only get one lifetime. You only get one shot. Go for it. Even when times are bad, keep going for it, because good things happen to those who wait. And life was never meant to be easy. Even people who have hundreds of thousands of euros to spend, they also cope with the same problems that you cope with, that same kind of depression. I think it's just in human nature to get really down easily, and all you think you can do to stop yourself from getting down is to surround yourself with great people, your friends, your family, just anyone who can give you positive vibes. Always surround yourself with these people. They are such a big help, especially if you know of yourself that you're emotionally fragile. Constantly go and see your friends. Whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're at home thinking, oh, my life sucks, go out, see your friends. It always helps. I held on for my friends and family. I was like, I can't do this to them. I can't be so ungrateful to make these people unhappy for something that, they don't deserve. There are so many things in life that you don't deserve, which make you unhappy. You don't want to be responsible for one of those things in someone else's life, or in many people's lives for that instance. So if you're ever feeling down, hold on. That's all I can say. Hold on. You only get one shot. There are people out there who love you, even if you don't believe it. It's never worth giving up. It really never is worth giving up. Just keep trying. And if you're having trouble trying, you can contact me. I'm an open person. I'm very easy to talk to. And I always listen. If you've got a problem in your life, tell me. Just tell me. And I will help you as much as I can. Doesn't matter how far you are. That was story time with me. This has been a very long story, and I probably bored a lot of few people, but I'm just trying to, express myself and also show to the world that if you're feeling down and things aren't going well, there are people out there who listen. I'm one of them. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.